Every single year, millions of tourists flock to Buckingham Palace to photograph these guys, the red coat, the stern face, and that enormous fluffy black hat sitting on top of their heads. But here's the question nobody asks out loud. Is that thing actually made from a real bear? The answer is yes. And honestly, the full story is way more controversial, way more expensive, and way more fascinating than you think. Stay with me because by the end of this video, you'll never look at those guards the same way again. First things first, that hat has a name. It's called a bearskin cap. Not a bearskin hat, not a fuzzy helmet, a bearskin cap. And yes, the name is exactly what you think it means. It stands about 18 inches tall, that's roughly 45 centimeters, which means it adds nearly 1.5 feet to the height of whoever's wearing it. Imagine strapping a small child's torso to your head. That's basically what these guards are doing. Now here's your first jaw-dropping fact. Each hat weighs around 1.5 pounds, that's about 700 grams. On a hot summer's day, standing completely still, not allowed to move or react, these soldiers are balancing a heavy fur cylinder on their heads for hours at a time, and it gets worse. When it rains, the wet fur can make the hat double in weight. So we're talking close to 3 pounds on your head while standing at attention outside one of the most photographed buildings on Earth. Here's where it gets historically juicy. The bearskin cap didn't start as a British thing at all. It was originally worn by the elite grenadier soldiers of Napoleon's Imperial Guard, the most feared infantry unit in early 19th century Europe. These were Napoleon's best troops, and the tall hats were a deliberate psychological weapon. They made soldiers look taller, more imposing, and terrifying on the battlefield. Pure intimidation tactics. Then came June 18th, 1815, the Battle of Waterloo. The Duke of Wellington's forces defeated Napoleon's army. As a symbol of that victory, the British foot guards were awarded the right to wear the same bearskin caps as the soldiers they had just defeated. It was basically the military equivalent of wearing your opponent's championship belt. That tradition has continued for over 200 years. So, which bear are we actually talking about here? The hats are made from the fur of the Canadian black bear. Not a grizzly, not a polar bear. Specifically the black bear from North America. The British Ministry of Defense sources the fur through a licensed supplier in Canada, where black bear hunting is a regulated activity used for wildlife population management. The Canadian government issues hunting licenses, and the pelts that would otherwise go to waste are purchased by the MOD. Here's a wild stat for you. It takes the fur of one entire bear to make just one hat. One single hat. And the British Army has roughly 2,800 of these hats in active rotation. You do the math. The hats are incredibly durable, though each one lasts approximately 20 years before it needs replacing. So it's not like they're going through thousands of bears every year, but still, the numbers add up over time. Now brace yourself, because this is where it gets absurd. Each bearskin cap costs the British taxpayer approximately $1,200 to $1,300. Some estimates put premium replacements even higher. Multiply that by the 2,800 hats in rotation. You're looking at a fleet worth around 3.5 million pounds. And these aren't just display pieces. They get rained on, sweated through, and worn in the harsh British weather. So they need regular maintenance, cleaning, and eventual replacement. Or context. You could buy a decent used car for the price of one hat, and the guards are wearing that cost on their heads every single day. Now here's where things get really interesting, and honestly, divisive. Animal rights organization PETA has been campaigning for over 20 years to get the British Army to switch to a synthetic alternative. They've sent letters to multiple prime ministers, held demonstrations outside Buckingham Palace, and even developed a fake fur prototype that they say is visually identical. In 2005, the MOD actually trialed a fake fur alternative, but concluded it didn't meet the required standard for appearance and durability. In 2021, PETA claimed a breakthrough. They said a high-quality faux fur had finally been developed that looked convincing enough. The official position of the British Ministry of Defense is that the real fur remains the most durable and authentic material available, and that the bear fur is sourced from regulated culls, not trophy hunting. PETA's counter-argument? That tradition is not a good enough reason to keep killing bears when synthetic options exist. It's a genuinely complex debate. On one side, century-old military tradition, heritage, and sourcing from already culled animals. Okay, before we wrap up, let's rapid-fire through some facts that are genuinely going to blow your mind. Guards are not allowed to remove their hat during duty, even if it falls over their eyes. There's footage online of guards with their bearskin completely covering their face, still marching in perfect step. Absolute legends. The strap you see under the chin? It's called a chin chain, and it's actually worn slightly off-center below the lower lip, not under the chin. This is a deliberate tradition dating back centuries. Different regiments wear slightly different versions. The Grenadier Guards have a white plume on the left. The Coldstream Guards have a red plume on the right. The Scots Guards? No plume at all. It's a subtle regimental code hiding in plain sight. During World War II, the bearskin caps were actually put into storage, and the guards wore simpler helmets. The hats were not always black. Early versions were various shades of brown, depending on the bear. Female guards wear the exact same hat. Since women were permitted to join the foot guards in recent years, they wear the full bearskin cap. Same height, same weight, no exceptions. So, are British guard hats really made from bear fur? Absolutely yes. One bear per hat, sourced from Canada, lasting 20 years, and costing over £1,000 each. Is it a centuries-old tradition steeped in military glory? Also yes. Is it something that deserves a modern rethink? That debate is very much still alive. What I find fascinating is that this hat, this thing tourists pose next to for selfies, carries the weight of Waterloo, animal rights battles, royal tradition, and a genuinely mind-bending manufacturing story all at once. If you found this interesting, drop a like. It genuinely helps this channel more than you'd think.